All right, welcome to Park and Rec Commission meeting on September 6, 2018. I called the meeting to order at 7. And let's start the Pledge of Allegiance.
Which stands one nation, under God, indivisible.
You want to roll next roll call?
Okay. Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Okay. Vice Chair Biani?
Here.
Commissioner Stanek?
Here.
And Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Chair Tame will be a little late to this meeting.
Yeah, she will join soon. Let's do the approval of the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes of August 2nd, 2018.
I second it.
Can we have the vote? Yeah. Motion carries. And on to the oral communication. We have 2 blue cards to request to speak. Let's have.
So hang on a second. So oral communications is on something that's
Not on the agenda. Yes. Yeah, that's the case. Right. So the first to speak, Noel Eberhard, and please state your name. You have 3 minutes to complete your comments.
I'm Noel Eberhart. I live on Curzich Place in Cupertino. And first of all, I'd like to thank and extend my appreciation to all of you folks for doing this good work. And I'd also like to put on record that the city works department is just doing a fantastic job on taking care of the activity fields in the schools. And I'm primarily most familiar with the field at Kennedy. They're just doing a great job. It's a great field. I have one request. There's one thing I'm not really sure about. It may be rather minor and picky, but there's usually a little porta potty out there, which I think is really great. And it's my observation that there are quite a few people that do use it. People that are running and so forth, as well as the sports organizations that use it. Now, I don't know who's paying for it, because occasionally it's not there. It's usually open. Sometimes it's locked. So my suggestion is if the city is not providing that facility, because when it's not accessible, I see other people kind of going where they shouldn't be. But it'd be my suggestion, if the city's not providing that, and if it's dependent on the organized sports teams to do that, to maybe raise their fees a little bit and have the city provide it so that that facility is there for the users of the field to use that. So that's my request. And again, thank you very much, and thanks again to the Department of Public Works for doing an outstanding job. Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Marshall.
Hi, everybody. I know many of you. Let's see if this works. Thanks for your support.
Yes.
And we have to hear to compare.
Beeps. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Thank you. So I read in the announcement for this meeting that this is the Parks and Recs, and you were looking for ideas for things that could be done in Parks and Rec. And that's why I'm here. I expected hundreds of people here. So I guess I'll have to make up in quality what I lack in quantity. I had two thoughts. My wife and I have been traveling around the world for the last 3 years, basically. And one thing we saw, particularly in South America, was that the government sponsored basically dance aerobics in public parks. There would be a young person with a loudspeaker and a microphone, and they would come, set up at the same time every morning, say 6:30, and 50 people would attend, and they'd lead a dance aerobic session. The cost was maybe $20 to pay this person, plus the PA system. It was very low, and everybody just got a lot out of it. And it seemed like such a high payback thing to do. Low-hanging fruit. I guess you'd be competing with the local gyms, but it still seems like a huge opportunity. The other thing I wanted to suggest is in today's 2018, kids are looking at their devices. They have very little experience with any risk, with any outdoors activities. It's all devices. And I think zip lines are great. I brought a picture of a zip line. I see zip lines all over the world. A zip line is simply a cable which is stretched across a piece of property. Particularly if it's on a downhill slope, you can set it up so that the kid is never more than about 3 feet off the ground. It's enormously exciting because you're zipping along above the lawn, above the grass, and you think it's a high-risk activity, but actually you're only 3 feet off the ground. The worst that can happen is you get a grass scrape. And I think Linda Vista Park would be an ideal place for one. It's vastly underutilized. It has a lot of nice slopes that would be ideal for a zip line. And I know that there are liability concerns, but I think you'd have thousands of families driving to Linda Vista Park to ride on the zip line every weekend. I don't know, maybe that they'd stay at home with their devices. What's that, Helene?
I'm hoping they'll be biking there.
Oh, yes, there you go. This is another picture, I think, this is another architecture, which was on a level place. It's just a different design. This architecture seems to be the most popular. I believe this is from Iceland.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. Your time is up.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? And thank you for considering it.
Thank you. All right. Next, we would like to move the agenda item for about now, so that, and then we move the master plan to later. So let's go on to the agenda item 4.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start that off. I'm Tim Borden, Director of Public Works. Usually come in and talk to you on an annual basis about our capital improvement program and go through all the projects that we anticipate working on the coming year in the parks and recreation environment. From time to time, there are opportunities that come up that may change that work plan, and that's what we came to talk to you about tonight. Opportunities could be that maybe a grant opportunity comes up, and we want to move forward because we don't want to miss that window. Tonight we're talking about a piece of land that fits well within several different plans identified through and adopted by the city. So we do have funding to do these flexible, when we have these opportunities, we have money to set aside to do small studies to further, to come up with cost estimates so they can go into the budget at a later time. So we intend to do that with this project. I wanted to bring this to Parks and Recreation Commission to get any feedback, but also just to let you know that this is something that we're adding in. We don't know if council will give us money to complete the design or construction, but we are doing the preliminary design, so we have some information as we go forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Chad Mosley, our city engineer.
Thank you for having us here tonight, and I'm just going to present this potential project to you quickly, and again, hoping to get your input. This is the Hall Road, the old Hall Road that runs between McClellan Road and Linda Vista Park along the east side of Deep Cliff Golf Course. This old road used to be used, I think, by the quarry that was back there. It's been just a vacant strip of land for quite some time. Like Tim had stated, the trail is envisioned in the general plan, as well as the 2016 bicycle transportation plan and the 2018 pedestrian transportation plan. It's a good connection between McClellan Road and Linda Vista Park, and could be an extension of other trails that we have along McClellan Ranch and Blackberry Farm. This map here kind of shows the length. It's approximately 1,750 feet long. The strip of land is about 40 feet wide. Again, it's along the east side of Deep Cliff Golf Course, and then runs along the back side of about 16 properties there along the east side of the trail. As Tim had stated, this is a great opportunity. The person that owns that trail has actually approached us and stated that if we can complete design drawings and get funding and the project approved by the end of 2019, that they would be willing to dedicate the property to the city. And so there is, this is kind of not during our typical budget time or project approval time. That's one reason we're coming to you with this, to kind of get your input on it. Here are just a few photos of the existing condition. It's already a well-established road, and we're thinking that with it's not going to be a small amount of work. It's probably going to be quite a significant bit of work, but we believe that we can turn this into a very nice trail system for both bikes and for pedestrians. So basically, we're just looking to get your feedback on this and moving forward with the conceptual plan.
Right. Let's see if anybody has any clarifying questions. You want to? Do you have?
I guess I have a question. Have you talked to any of the neighbors yet, or done any due diligence on that, the folks that would back right up against the trail?
I personally have not. The person that owns the property has had some discussions with a few of the neighbors. They've provided some input already. We are hoping to get some base drawings put together and then some conceptual designs, and then from there take it to the neighbors to get their input. From there we would revise the conceptual drawings as much as possible to accommodate them.
Okay.
But we would like to have something to show them before we go to talk to them.
I think an important first step will be to do a survey, so we actually know exactly where property lines are, can show them, and that will give them a better feel for what impacts there may be and how the design may be able to take care of those impacts.
Okay, so this is early days, not really get into the crossings and all the details now. It's really just...
Not yet,
yeah.
but that's where we want to get
Okay.
to, right?
Any other questions?
So what do you want from us tonight? A vote, or just a go get 'em, or?
A go get 'em, I think, is sufficient. Like I said,
Okay.
we do have budget already for that. We don't intend to go directly to council right now. What we want to do is this initial bit of work, so that maybe mid-year budget, which is usually in early March, we may be in a position where we could request design, money to complete the design and possibly even start the construction.
Okay, so I've had the opportunity to walk this trail, and it's really awesome. It's sort of a dream come true because, anyway, I was asking what they
Just
wanted.
question.
So
Yeah,
discussion,
comments
just
on-
questions.
Just go ahead.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, go get 'em.
Go ahead with your comments.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do we know how many properties are either back end or, like front, any property does have front towards this trail? Or it's only backyards?
So it's basically only backyards,
Okay.
unless you want to talk about Deep Cliff Golf Course. It's kind of a side yard then, I guess, for lack of a better word. But all the properties that are along the east side back up to this trail.
Okay. And this would be mostly a connector to McClellan Ranch and further to the trail that goes. Would it be used by like high school students to go?
This would be basically a connection between McClellan Road and Linda Vista Park, and it would be an extension of the existing trail system that runs through McClellan Ranch and Blackberry Farm. I don't know that this would necessarily be a direct route for kids to walk to school, but, you know, I guess it depends on the kids.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right.
I thought one question. Will you be looking at the crossing of McClellan with this, your initial review of all of this?
Likely so. That's a great question, because I think that may be one of the more difficult parts of it. So yeah, there's been, studies of what you can do there. I mean, there may be an opportunity to put in another flashing beacon. There's other, there's things you could do, but we know that the safety at that intersection is going to be one of the more challenging parts of the design.
All right. So we can do our comments. And if anybody in the audience have a blue card and would like to speak on this agenda item,
So go ahead.
and
I just have a bicycle.
Would you like to speak on it?
Yeah,
Would
you
like
just
to speak
just
on it?
you can fill the card and speak. You get 3 minutes to speak again.
I live in that neighborhood, and one of my dreams, you were asking how this might,
Come to
You
the
have to fill out a blue card.
no,
You can go ahead and speak first, and then you can fill the blue card out.
okay, thanks.
and just let's say your name again for the record.
Oh, my name is Dan Marshall. I live in the neighborhood. There was a question as to how this might fit into the overall scheme of things. One of my dreams is to hike to the ocean, and this would open up avenues for almost everybody in Silicon Valley to hike to the ocean. Because once you get to Linda Vista Park, you can get, with a little bit of effort, to up into the hills. And once you get into the hills, there are trails that take you all the way to the ocean. So you're tying a critical link to be able to go from anywhere in Silicon Valley to Santa Cruz, basically. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's have the commissioner comments.
Dan couldn't have said it better. It really fits in with our plan to connect our trails, and this for a long time was private property and hidden from us, and we couldn't really get to the open space, and this connects Blackberry Farm, which could easily connect Sunnyvale, whatever, to the open space. And actually, those of us who've lived here long enough, there was a trail from Linda Vista Park to the open space, which got wrecked in a 1992 or one of those rainstorms that never got rebuilt. So there's opportunities for the trail to go up over the hills. And so go get them. That would be great. And also very generous of our neighbor who's offering this to the city.
I agree with Judy. We should absolutely go investigate this. I've heard input just randomly from people in the community that said, wouldn't it be great if we could get from McClellan to Linda Vista? And here it is presenting itself to us. And so I know a lot of people who would be very interested in the community to see this happen. So I would definitely like to, to see it move forward. Thank you.
Actually, we are in the comment section now. We cannot take any more comments from the audience. Thank you. You,
I guess it's up to you.
yeah, what do you say,
Let
Kevin?
us finish.
Okay, we'll make an exception. Please state your name, and please do fill out the card.
Okay, my name is Elizabeth Tu, and I passed by that area. I definitely support this, but however, just want to emphasize focus on the safety, because I believe you are crossing the McCowan, which is a downhill. There are bikers, there are cars, and so sometimes, especially for bikers, and then it's kind of up. So that's the only thing I would just kind of, pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Make a comment. Yes,
Yes.
I am all for this. I think this is really fantastic. This is in my neighborhood. I grew up in the area, and, we talk about connectivity here a lot, and this is just another piece of the puzzle. So, yeah, I support it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so I'm also in favor of trails whenever we can, and this was a great gift to connect the two parks and have more opportunity for people to use outdoors. So it's a great opportunity for us to pursue. As the comment said, safety, especially when we are crossing the McClellan, should be high priority. And also, we have the neighbors, people who are getting affected by this trail behind their houses. Their concerns should be addressed. But yeah, it's a great opportunity, and we should take the chance because we are getting it. So, but the condition is that it should be constructed by December of 19.
Basically, December 31st of 2019, we're intending to have a design and approval and budgeting from City Council.
Okay.
Construction would happen after that.
Okay, so it's not that the construction should finish by that. Okay.
No.
Right. Okay. Right. So yes, in favor of it, the trail. All right.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Now we are back to our regular schedule, and we are on the agenda item 2. The city-wide Parks and Recreation System Master Plan.
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for setting aside time this evening to talk about our citywide Parks and Recreation System Master Plan. We have some exciting things to talk about. There are 3 very detailed tables that were posted on Thursday evening for you and for the community to look at, and I will walk us through each of them and break after each one for questions and so on. But do feel free as I'm going along. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to clarify. Okay, and just to keep things entertaining, we're going to start with Table 2 and go a little bit out of order. I believe that you have 11 by 17 copies of the tables, if you want to look at those. I do have them electronically at the end of the presentation, but what my intention is to do is to highlight some key things from those tables for you. So Table 2 is the one that talks about new park and recreation facilities. There are 4 primary categories in this table: potential new parks, brand new parks, potential new trails, new major features, and major facility enhancements. And this is kind of a little bit repackaged version of what we were previously calling big moves. So you've seen iterations of these in previous months, and this consolidates a lot of thinking about those things. The first category, potential new parks, that one's self-explanatory. If there is an opportunity to acquire and develop park space, we would like to pursue it. We would like to emphasize areas that have been underserved. The goal, if feasible, is to achieve 1 to 3 new parks in our planning horizon and strive to the extent possible for larger size parks, 3 acres or more, if that can be achieved. This really will be opportunity driven. We'll just have to be open to opportunities that may come along. In the short term, our plan to address this goal is to continue to explore partnerships, joint use or expanded joint use agreements with the schools, and improving access to existing facilities in our community. And when these opportunities come up, to acquire sites and involve the public in designing the parks and their amenities. And longer term is essentially more of same. The next category in Table 2, one thing to touch on is the goal, a noted goal is that as opportunities come along, since we have a lot of neighborhoods that are underserved without enough parks that serve daily needs, we'd like to look at any potential acquisitions against these criteria. These criteria have been discussed with you and with the City Council in the past, and they're just a way to benchmark. Might the site very well serve the neighborhood or partially serve the neighborhood? It's not absolute, but it's a way of thinking about, might the acquisition be a good one? So these criteria are they're already in the document that you looked at last month. So that's just flagging that for you. On potential new trails, we have, as our Public Works Director and our City Engineer pointed out, we've got quite new documents. Our Bicycle Transportation Plan and Pedestrian Transportation Plan have a wonderful network of bikeways and trails laid out for us. So we have supported that in our planning work in this master plan. We would like to prioritize the connections that could link parks, schools, and trails, extensions of existing trails, gap closures, and completing loop trails. The short term is to coordinate with Public Works on how they implement priorities. They are already bringing forward projects as part of the capital improvement program annually, and they are diligently implementing priorities from the bike transportation plan and the pedestrian transportation plan. We'd also like to explore other opportunities if there are options to partner with the Water District along creek corridors for creek trails, if there are potential dedications from developers or other ways to secure open space along creeks or utility corridors, other pathway opportunities. We'd certainly like to explore and support those and to continue implementing our planned trails. And the longer term is essentially a continuation of that, and to make sure that we're also including trailheads as these planned trails come forward, that we have the amenities to make them welcoming and safe. This well aligns with one of our 12 outreach themes from all the public input we've received recently. Trails have been a very top priority community-wide. Now, Category 3 is these potential new major facilities that our community would like to have and that we don't currently have. The first one is an aquatics facility, a year-round aquatics facility. Our only city-operated pools complex is at Blackberry Farm, and it is seasonal. So the recommendation in our this plan, which extends to the year 2040, is to pursue a year-round aquatic center that provides recreation, instruction, lap swimming, aquatic exercise, and pool events. And this slide outlines what is in the table, how to pursue developing one, what kinds of parameters we'd like to be thinking about, the kinds of, when we listed potential elements, that's a first cut from staff and the consultant team at the kinds of things we feel would suit this community, and they reflect the input we've received through this process, the kinds of things that our residents would like to have. So there's a list of potential elements that could make this aquatic facility useful and well-enjoyed and help it be more financially self-sustaining. In the short term, the suggestion is to prepare an analysis and business plan that would define a program, an actual program for an aquatic facility, and could come up with cost information, not just construction costs, but operating costs, staffing costs, and that would help us hone in on any optimal sites for an aquatic facility. And meanwhile, we'd like to explore partnerships, any acquisitions that come along, and to consider this possibility as we move forward with a master plan for Memorial Park. That was one of the things we got positive feedback on from our community, is the possible idea of having this kind of thing at Memorial. And longer term, our hope is that this facility can be built. So photos of some aquatics. The second item in this major new features is a gym complex with a multi-use recreation center. If you're flipping pages, let me give you a moment. And so that recommendation reflects that. The potential sites, it could be co-located, and ideally it would be at a relatively central location in town. The potential elements, this is a sample program, same as we did for the aquatic center. There's definitely interest in having full-size courts for basketball and viewing space and bleacher space, and space for volleyball, badminton, pickleball types of activities, gymnastics. Our current gymnastics program is in a building with a very low ceiling, and it limits what we can do. And we can have space for fitness, seniors, multi-purpose rooms, program space, and a range of potential amenities could be in this facility. Again, we are recommending that an analysis and business plan be prepared that will better define a program, define it more closely, and identify the costs and siting parameters. Meanwhile, there are a couple of sites that could potentially host this. One of them is Memorial Park. As when we discussed the Memorial Park concepts, you saw that idea. There are a couple of other possible locations in town, parks that have enough space and have reasonable access. And longer term, our goal is to develop a full-size indoor gym and rec center.
Gil, could I just ask a question?
Sure.
I should have asked this up front, sorry.
Sure.
So as we're going through this, I always like to know up front, what is it that you're looking for from us tonight on these particular things that you're presenting to us?
Okay. We are looking for the commission's feedback. These tables are really going to kind of become our work plan. They're short-term goals, and the things that are labeled as short-term goals are in the 1 to 5 year horizon, and then there's longer-term goals that will be 6 years and outward, 10, 15 years and beyond. And we would like your feedback on the content of these. Have we got the content right? Are the recommendations, do they represent the commission's vision, and what have we accurately captured the community sentiment? We're looking to balance a lot of things here. So we would like your feedback on anything that's missing, anything you feel is off base, and whether this really is going to be a good framework to carry us forward over the next 20 plus years. And it's structured as a framework. There are some things that are well defined, some things are quite a bit more open-ended because by their nature they will need to be opportunistic.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for asking that. We should have started with that. Thank you. Regarding a performing and fine arts center, that's another high desire item in this community. We have a very artsy set of residents, very musical, and we have no theater space of our own to offer. So the recommendation is to develop an auditorium and/or performing arts center. for community scale performances, not 2,000 seat regional draw. We're looking to serve Cupertino with this, and to support daytime arts and recreation programs and evening programs and events as well. The siting, there's some narrative about that, about what would make a good site for a performing arts center. It could be co-located with another major facility, but there are some things where co-location doesn't offer much synergy. Traditionally, co-locating with a gym or an aquatic center doesn't fit with a performing arts and fine arts center as strongly as some other adjacent uses. There's potential elements, a sample program listed with an auditorium with seating, box office, lobby, support space, rehearsal space, studio space, an arts wing, instruction rooms, and there are possible things that could be included in such a building. If this goes forward, it could include maker and incubator space, outdoor plaza, art space, those kinds of things. And the short-term recommendation is to prepare a market analysis and business plan, again, to fully define a program and the costs and the resources we would need to follow up on this. And meanwhile, in the short term, we propose to explore partnership opportunities with our high schools, which do have auditoriums with De Anza College, explore partnership with them, or any other possible partners to address our more immediate needs while we're having this goal be out there. What can we do now in the near term? In longer term, we would love to develop and open and operate a performing and fine arts center. So some photos. This fits with the outreach theme regarding the arts and support for the arts in this community. The fourth and final major new facility, it's categorized as a facility, but it's called Enhanced Teen Services. And the recommendation is to create a unique teen space that really serves teen needs. It could be a student union style space, and have program space for teens and active space as well. The siting and the potential elements come from, they're based strongly on feedback we got from the teens themselves. As you have heard, our Teen Commission in 2016 did a survey, and they got over 1,000 responses from teens in our middle schools and high schools. Of the 6,000 teens that attend Cupertino middle and high schools, a great number of them participated in the survey and told us what they wanted, where they wanted, and how they wanted. So these recommendations reflect our teens' input. That feedback, those survey results were presented to this commission back in February of 2016. And the short-term recommendation is to continue our existing teen center, which is in the basement of the sports center, without major reinvestment. We've heard from the teens themselves that that's not a good location for them. There are many other locations that would be better, but meanwhile it is serving a need. We do have good usership, but we'd like to explore new sites and new partnership opportunities more actively. And in the longer term, the goal would be to replace the existing teen center at a better location, to consider if we implement one of these other major facilities or a multi-generational facility. And that space where the teen center is and the sports center could be repurposed. So some teen center images. And that's one of our 12 key outreach themes, youth and teen empowerment. And now there are two final items on this table that are investing in existing facilities, investing or reinvesting. And the first topic is expansion of senior services. The recommendation is to provide added space that serves our older adults and ultimately expand the existing senior center, and to consider other locations to better distribute senior activities wider throughout the city. We can co-locate those activities in other rec areas and make them more multi-generational and widen our offerings. And if a gym or a rec center, gym/multi-use rec center is implemented, there could be space that also effectively serves our seniors. Potential elements is a sample program for a possible addition in future years to our existing senior center. We're assuming it might want to be 2 stories so that we preserve the space in Memorial Park, and we don't, we can make a smaller footprint if we do a 2-story addition and add an elevator and retain those nice big oak trees, and the kinds of things that would enhance and support continued excellent senior services are noted, and also parking improvements are in order there. So the short-term suggestion is to survey our seniors regarding their interest in alternative locations and opportunities, and to explore locations based on those results. We can try mobile activities, and we can pilot or test out new locations and new programs other places besides our senior center and spread out. We would love to have your support in that recommendation. And of course, we can partner with other organizations that serve that part of our population and evaluate our current senior center for ways to enhance its function, capacity, and sustainability. And in the longer term, the proposal is to consider a possible renovation to the existing senior center and/or providing recreation for seniors as part of a gym and multi-purpose rec center and/or performing arts center or other major facilities. Some senior images, and a reminder that the senior population is growing at more than quadruple the rate of the rest of the population in our area, according to Metropolitan Transportation Commission and Association of Bay Area Governments. And then a last topic on this table is replacing or repurposing existing buildings. And the recommendation is to evaluate those buildings and consider replacement, repurposing, or remodeling our aging buildings and any underperforming buildings in concert with possible new facilities. They could be removed or replaced with new or added facilities, and it would really depend. This would be linked somewhat to proceeding with any other major new facilities. All of our buildings are in use. We are using them heavily. We're not proposing to remove any of them until we've got alternate locations to host those activities. So the short-term recommendation is to maintain our existing buildings without significant reinvestment, and in the longer term would be to renovate, replace, or relocate them. The buildings at Wilson and at Monte Vista Park and Recreation Center and at Portal Parks, we inherited those when we acquired those properties, which were former school sites. They're all older buildings, and we are using them for purposes that were not what they were built for. So they are aging, and they'll need to be evaluated for, does it make sense to invest in upgrading them when they get to the point of needing extensive work? Is that sensible? There also are some aging buildings and older buildings in the Stevens Creek Corridor, which will be addressed in the Stevens Creek Corridor Master Plan. And that is it for that table. That table had a lot in it. So thank you for listening. And are there clarifying questions?
I guess I have one question. So it gets back to what you need from us tonight. We've talked a lot about where we want, putting a stake in the ground that where we want to have an aquatic center or perform something big, like that first thing, and where we want those. So when I was looking at the different stagings, are we going to stage out or whatever? We already want to use about, finding the money and the plans for all of them, like we're going to do a full aquatics park and get all the numbers and details, a full performing art. I guess I'm not sure where we go from here.
The next step, our consultant team is working on conceptual costing information for the sample programs, which will give us an idea of the construction cost for those things. So we will bring that information forward. So we're not asking for you to say, do performing arts but don't do aquatics. We're not asking for that this evening.
Okay.
But we're asking if the information in these tables looks appropriate and looks right to you. If there's anything that should be changed, we'd love your feedback. Anything you want added.
Okay, so all of these elements are elements we've talked about as major elements in our big parks. And this is just sort of a outline on how we're going to figure out the details of each of these elements. Is that sort of an
this
accurate
is-
look at that?
On these, particularly on this table, since this is the bigger
Guts.
undertakings,
Yeah.
it's really a framework. We know that with limited land availability, and then these items would be individually and collectively expensive to tackle. So we're packaging this as to allow for jumping on opportunities, kind of like our Public Works Director brought forward an opportunity that occurred. And those, we know that over in a 20-year planning horizon, that we may have an opportunity for a partnership or that sort of thing.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have any questions? I actually have questions.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the short-term plan and the long-term plan, and you said short-term plan is 1 to 5 year time period.
Yes.
Some of the, I'm going to the Fine Arts Center area, and it says short-term explore partnership opportunity with schools and Dianza College. What is the timeline for getting this, looked at and say, what is the potential over there? And maybe do a pilot a summer and see, what is the interest in the community? Actually, will various organizations or groups come and actually use the facility before we go for a full-on program? So is there a timeline to these, 5 years is a very long time. So like a survey or identifying the partnership, is there a much shorter, and can we have a breakdown of the timeline of the 1 to 5 years to more like 6 months? We should have this input for you, or survey done. Like the senior center, there is survey the seniors and find out. So could we reduce the timeline and break it up more to?
Are you having trouble hearing?
Oh, sorry. Oh. Sorry, my microphone was away. I'm requesting the short-term timeline to be broken up more, and some of the, can that be done? And, then we probably have better idea about with recommendations for these areas.
Yes, there is a lot of, across these tables, there's quite a bit in this short-term recommendations, and it would also be very useful to hear if there are priorities in your thinking about across this 5-year horizon, if there are things that are more important to get to first. We have noted in past presentations that our intention is to bring forward very swiftly, once this master plan is squared away, a strategic plan that will outline clearly in a work plan format what the department proposes to do, in what order and how. And Director Milkus has mentioned this, so that was our intention. But if there are things that the commission feels are important to tackle sooner rather than later, and a suggestion like that is a fantastic suggestion to pilot a theater arrangement with one of the folks in town that has a theater. Can we come to an arrangement with them and explore that? And Director Milkus, it looks like you'd like to chime in.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Melkus, Director of Recreation and Community Services. Just to let you know that when we do start putting together that work plan that'll be, in a sense, the strategic plan, that's how we'll break out the master plan into chunks that we can tackle in a reasonable time. Remember, we're looking at 25 years down the road to complete everything. However, we'll be breaking it out in 3 to 5 year blocks. And my hope is that we can work together to define what needs to go first. Where are the priorities there? To me, it's very much a commission run document. And so between the commission and between senior staff, we'll be coming up with what are the things, again, keeping in mind that the plan is fairly opportunistic, meaning that if money should fall from the sky, we'll definitely want to look at things. If we need to mount funding campaigns of sort or look at private funding and such, some things can take a little bit longer. So, but there's certainly a lot of low-hanging fruit, things that we need to do that we've been kind of holding off until we know what the plan is set.
I have a clarifying question. Would it be most useful to kind of understand the kinds of things that are make sense to tackle in the 1 to 2 year horizon, sort of an initial wave of effort?
I would think some kind of a plan would be helpful to see what the short term and the interest of the community, because we are talking about 25 years down the line, and we build these big structures and the interest, the interest is not there, or it is not used properly. So to gain some understanding of the current community's interest, it would be good to see if we can bring the 1 or 2 year time plan.
Absolutely. Just to remind you too, on these bigger projects, they'll all come with their own, for lack of other words, their own little master plan that will look at what the interest in the community is, what the financial opportunities are, locations. I mean, we'll be convening again planning efforts for each one before we would think about, because there's programs, there's parking to worry about, there's environmental concerns, there's fees, there's operations and maintenance. The list is pretty lengthy before we would think about breaking ground on a facility like this, or like these that we list.
So do you want prioritizing from the commission on which of these elements should be tackled first? Or?
That would be fantastic to hear the commission's sentiments.
Anybody want to?
I'm not sure I'm ready to do that tonight. That's my personal opinion. I feel like you're laying out for us everything we've talked about over the year and a half, and it's very thorough. And you've taken all the input from us, from the community, the consultants, and that we're just kind of looking at this tonight and then giving our feedback. And if we saw something that was missing or something that we thought was really important, we would let you know. I guess I'm personally not ready to prioritize it yet. That's just me.
I think that the priorities, it says on here, the actual phasing and sequencing is so opportunity driven, just like the previous agenda item. Something happened and then it gave us an opportunity to move forward on something, and that may be what happens with a lot of these. And it is difficult without dollarizing and understanding the fiscal impact of it to be able to prioritize some of the things. The one exception to that, I guess I have, is where I feel that we're really missing and we're failing in the community, and that's the teen center and the teen services. And I think that should have some priority just because it is a big gap that has been recognized.
We haven't figured it out.
Right, but it's something that needs effort.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we do
Focus
have a
on.
senior center. It may not be as nice as we want. We do have different places where people can swim at various times of the year, and somehow that's getting addressed. The Performing Arts Center, that's something that's not there, but that is a big thing.
Right.
And we do have a sports center, even though it may not be meeting all of the needs. So, those are things we want to improve and really figure out what the perfect solution is. But I think the one place that we definitely have a gap, that we have a facility that is underutilized and a waste, is the teen center.
That was helpful.
Okay, so I'm with Helene. I'm not sure I feel I'm ready to prioritize. I'm not sure what Meenakshi was getting at, but tell me if I'm right. So I feel like we've already done a lot of that. We've gone to the community. They've given us these ideas that you've got here have already been community represented and surveyed and talked about. So, and we've come up with 4 or 5 big ones. I guess what I would like to hear before we make any recommendations is how realistic at what park, the dollar signs, and the partnerships. And a thing Meenakshi, I think, was getting at also is that if there's going to be a partnership, can we find that out sooner than later? Because if the schools aren't going to share their theaters, that maybe brings up the theater a notch. And De Anza can't share their pools, that brings up the aquatic. So, I mean, some of those things have to come back to us and say, let's not spend $1 billion on a theater because De Anza is going to rebuild the Flint Center and we're going to share it with them, or Balco is going to build us a performing arts. There's a lot of things that opportunistic that come back to us, and maybe in the shorter term we'll know those things, so we can either get them off our list or we can prioritize them on our list. But I don't feel I can prioritize them until I know, are the schools going to share pools? Is De Anza going to share stuff? Is Balco going to develop a park? What's the money? Is it realistic to build something like this? And maybe sooner than later, which I think maybe Meenakshi was getting at, that would be helpful to know before we
Make any priority.
prioritize. Although I think we've heard from our community that if our community had their way and money fell from the sky, they'd want all this built. So we've heard from them, this is what they'd like. And I guess it's our job to figure out how realistic it is to build it. Meenakshi, does that cover a little bit like what you were trying to get at?
Right. I would rather see that because we have defined short-term and long-term and figure out things that we are thinking that they will work in short-term, actually move on them faster and not wait like 3 years. And kind of get an idea and to prioritize based on those inputs, which are key, which make this decision go one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
do we have any public comments on? Yeah. All right.
Dan's not shy.
I just wanted to point out that
Can you state your name
my name
again?
is Dan Marshall.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Get
haven't
closer
changed
to the
it.
mic, please.
Closer to the mic, Dan.
Oh, thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that the recent Valco proposal is talking about a performing arts center. And the mall that's across the street from, I wish I knew the name of the mall, it's across the street from De Anza College on the other side of Stevens Creek. It is now a ghost town. And it's a ripe opportunity because it's adjoining Memorial Park. Could just be an extension of Memorial Park. If you were assertive about, what recreational facilities you wanted to have incorporated into that space. Because something's going to happen to it pretty quickly, I would guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? No?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got my interest anyway. My name is Elizabeth Tu again, and I'm thrilled to hear all of these, and definitely hope to hopefully have some kind of analysis of what the current usage of the senior center or teen center, some kind of analysis of that, and then kind of develop the plan. Definitely, I kind of agree what I'm hearing say. It's prioritized. My goodness, I think. We want all of them, but at the same time, it's not possible to have all of them. Also, some of them probably could be merged together. I mean, why keep them separate? Maybe it's good to merge them together. So, but at least we understand we have some of these, as you mentioned already. So maybe let's study any problem or any improvement we need to make from the existing one to know the problems. Then when we build a new one, we can learn from the lessons learned from there, and then prioritize. Hopefully, we will get the community to have a say in this. Which one first? Maybe based on the usage or based on whatever that will tell us something. But hopefully, the community get to say again. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Questions anymore? No? All right, we'll have comments then. Do you want to start?
Well, yeah, because I read this whole thing before I came, and I made some notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I thought it was incredibly thorough, and I think I've already said, I feel like this is the input that we've gotten over the year and a half from commission, from the community, from, surveys and studies and et cetera, et cetera. So just the things that I noticed. So potential new parks, I don't see here anywhere about, and I'm not really sure how to state it, but being creative with potential new spaces or, using commercial spaces and roofs. That was just something I think we've discussed, but I don't really see it here, and I'm not really sure how to phrase that, but just being creative with usage of space for parks.
good, we can be explicit about that.
And then on the trails, I'm assuming this is a utility corridor, but I would like to call out the UP corridor specifically, because I know there has been some discussion of that, and to me, that would be a priority in the trails. And I'm assuming it's on the bike ped plan, yeah. And then potential new features, I would like to see the gym and the swimming facility linked, like in the same site. That would be something that I would prefer.
Okay. And they would have synergy.
Yeah. And then I just really want to call out what you already said about the performing arts and the theater, that siting is really important, and that it should be near a vibrant downtown as opposed to Memorial Park, somewhere where there's a lot of activity going on. And then, one more. The replaced or repurposed existing buildings, and I'm sure you're including this, but the Blesch House has been purchased since we started this. And then the barn at McClellan Ranch, I don't know how that fits in. I know there's a lot of challenge on that, but it's one of the few historic buildings that we have in the city.
We can make sure that they're explicitly noted. There's a little piece that talks about the Stevens Creek corridor in more detail, so we can note them specifically.
Okay, thanks. That's it for me.
Any more comments? No?
Okay.
No? So
Next table. You ready?
I have.
Oh, excuse me.
I have
Vice Chair.
some comments about in the neighborhood park. You say engage the public in creating the concepts and develop sites. Engaging the public has been a little. I would like to see more details on how we are going to engage the public, because our last workshop that we had very few people show up. Maybe it's the timing, or it was the demographic. The people who showed up were skewed to one age group. So how do we engage the public? Can we have more plan around it and reach out? Because not everybody's on Nextdoor, not everybody gets to email. So define how we engage the public and get the maximum input.
That's a great suggestion, and I will add that when we were planning Sterling Barnhart Park in the Rancho Rinconada neighborhood, there was very enthusiastic participation by the neighbors and the nearby residents. They were very thrilled that they were going to get a new park in their neighborhood, and that the turnout and the input were very useful, and the design responded to the neighbors' specific ideas and suggestions. So we're hoping that if a new park opportunity comes along, that the folks that will use it will certainly be willing to participate, and we will work hard on the outreach so that language can be strengthened.
Right. In the proposed trail and trail corridor, there are all these other plans that we are dependent on, like transportation or pedestrian transportation plan, bike ped plan. Is there a sequence of these plans, like when one will finish, or the dependency? Like, can we do something once only that bike transportation plan moves on, or they have the money, or like, what is the correlation between these plans and how does it affect us, and at what point do we can move on? Like, if the bike pedestrian, it says coordinate to develop trails from bike plan, pedestrian plan, and master plan. So what is the timeline? Is there a picture which shows that, like a project plan? You know, if this happens, then we can do this and this.
Probably not that explicit. I've cuddled up with the bike plan and the pedestrian plan, and they're wonderful, extensive plans, and they're a couple of decades worth of implementation, and our council has been very supportive of implementation. They each prioritized, and certainly the bike plan was, there's rankings and an order in which things will be implemented. There's a top tier and a middle tier and a next tier. So Public Works has kind of outlined what their approach will be. They also are doing feasibility work for some of the potential trail corridors, including the UP Railroad Corridor, and as you heard, the Regnart Creek Trail. And the Nipro-Sarah Channel Trail. They're all active with Public Works. So they have kind of laid out an order for doing things, and those things are coming forward in the 5-year capital program. You can see what they are tackling in what order over the next 5 years. And our plan very strongly reflects all of their good work.
There's no visual of like the plans merging, different people, different departments working. Like, I guess are we dependent on something to happen before we can move on our master plan? For the trails and
from a trail perspective?
Yeah.
No, and
Okay.
really the Public Works Department is really the lead on
Okay.
the trail implementation. And they're forging ahead. You met Tim and Chad this evening, and their transportation group is working very actively. So we're thrilled about that.
Okay. A couple of things about the short-term plan, especially with the teen center and the preschool. It would be nice to know this is just like an idea, but the space, the footprint of the current teen center and the footprint of, say, the facility that is the building at Creekside Park. Are they similar in size, or if we, there's idea of repurposing or replacing the existing buildings, and the usage of, say, Creekside Park building, if it's not high usage, and can we actually, piloting, seeing if the space size is same, can we actually take that teen center out and put it into the Creekside building, that facility, and see what the reaction is, because that location is so close to the schools. There are 3 or 4, 5 schools probably can reach 2 middle schools, 2 high schools are in the proximity, and that facility is there, and and then you have the concession stand which has not been used. That could easily be a coffee shop during the hours of operation. So can we have such kind of pilots in the short-term plan and see how the reaction is, what if they are in use or accepted, or
Director Milkus, I'm saying, how about if we add that to the recommendations? We're talking about piloting things, and the enhanced teen services item noted as city-owned sites. Obviously school sites are great, but the ones that kind of rose to the top were included Creekside, and then the Civic Center because the teens are already at the library. So
Right.
that has the potential to work well. And shall we add a pilot?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth looking at. And that's not the only facility where we'd want to do something like that.
Okay.
If opportunity knocks, we should answer that door.
Yeah, especially with the connectivity through the library, if the Regnat Creek Trail happens, that would be, well connected to this thing. And the similar with the preschool that is at Quinlan Center and the facility at Portal Park. Are they area-wise similar? Not Quinlan Center, but the Monta Vista area park. Can they be, moved to this facility, and then you have that facility to be all gymnastics or rec? And I'm not sure what the usage of these two facilities are. How much does it get used, those buildings in Portal Park and Creekside Park?
I would think that a lot is going to be dependent upon where the larger sites may end up to be, or the larger facilities may end up to be sited. Because if we were to put one of the larger facilities, let's say an aquatic and gymnasium facility, say at Creekside, that creates a domino effect because we would have to go over an existing multi-purpose sports field only to, with the need to relocate that sports field to another location. So, we've got to look at all of the dominoes in a sense. And I think that those kinds of questions are good, but they're going to have to follow what we end up doing or what we decide what the priorities are with the larger facilities.
Right, so the idea is being repurposing the existing buildings with the short-term immediate needs, especially the teen center has been talked about a lot. And if it could be, tried out at different location and see the usage, if the membership goes up, students can access or kids can access this place. And if there is a similar footprint, it might be worth looking at for the short term. And then we will get an idea of what the larger long-term plan should be for the teen center. Okay. Because it could be just a mirror of what we have right now at the sports center to get the idea for the interest and And I had one question. Is the current senior center, can it be two-story like as it is existing today, or it has to be like, can it support the second story without tearing it down first?
I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
Someone would
Just
need to
curious.
look at the building design and see if
Okay, just curious.
it could accommodate a second story. That's
Okay.
a good question.
All right, that's all. All right. Oh, yeah, we have one comment card. No? Oh, sorry? Yeah. Noel, Eberhardt, yes.
Yes, Noel Eberhard again. Notice I'm staying closer to the microphone. Two comments. I've been a member of the senior center for quite a few years. And casual observation, I'm still trying to learn Japanese. I'm over 80 years old and it was difficult, but I do enjoy that. The facility and the classrooms are impacted during the day. I wish our class was an hour and a half longer, but we finish with a 1 hour class and we have to move out and make room for the knitters that come in or some other class, some other session. On the other side of that, the facility is quite, to me, underutilized in those after hours. So it seems like there might be some capacity in the facility that we have there. The second item pertains to public engagement. You know, I've participated in some of these sessions where soliciting public input, and to me it's disheartening at times that some of the diminished participation in that. So how do we get involved with that, or how can we make better utilization of that? Another program that I've been participating in, oh gosh, I don't know, was it 10, 15 years? I've lost count. But it's the Block Leader Program. And as I think about this, rather than trying to pull the public up and solicit this information, why not try working it back down the other way to use that organization to try to disseminate to get that? Now, we do have gatherings as, I'm a block leader, and I get people in, and they're delighted to come around. You know, it's amazing what a couple bottles of wine and cheese will do. But we have neighbors who are speaking to each other. We get together and we talk and kind of smooth things over. And I see a lot of that through the program. So maybe you might be able to somehow use the block leaders to kind of go back down to try to help disseminate. Now, because I have tried in the past to get people in, time up, but try to get people to come to these meetings to participate and make inputs. It's a little difficult, but they're much more reactive to come in and participate, to come into the House, for example, on a more local level. So perhaps they use the block leader program to help get more useful input. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Okay,
moving on.
moving along. Excellent. Moving along to table 3. That one is titled Added Recreation Elements. It has all kinds of topics. It's smaller things than the table we just talked about, things that are less expensive and can be implemented more quickly on a shorter timeline. Wide range of things noted on this slide. I will touch on a couple of aspects of them. The first topic is nature play. The recommendation is to develop 3 to 4 nature play sites in our community, distributed geographically in a mix of locations, and 1 or more in a more natural kind of setting, and 1 at least that is more of a destination nature play area that might serve beyond just a local neighborhood. And nature play could fit at a variety of sites, although we're not proposing it at the Civic Center nor at the sports fields. And the short-term goal is to pilot a nature play area at 1 site and to evaluate where we could create a larger one, and we're hoping to have water play at one of those nature play areas. Regarding an all-inclusive play area, the short-term recommendation is to create a destination all-inclusive play area, and as the Commission is aware, our feasibility study concluded that Jollyman is the top site in our community, with the second choice site at Memorial Park. And our longer term goal is to add inclusive elements to all of our existing play areas, and to target the larger parks first because there's a bigger footprint to work with and because they're busier. Water play, that's one that Director Milkus has discussed regularly. We'd like to create a variety of water play opportunities here in Cupertino, and there's all kinds of things that can be done, everything from spray play to interactive water channels and just hand pumps, all kinds of things. The recommendation is 3 to 4 water play areas, geographically distributed, and a destination one, and ideally in a central location where we should consider this kind of thing. And our short-term recommendation is to develop an action plan and to create 1 water play feature, at least one in the short term, and to consider an interactive feature in the Memorial Park Master Plan, which will kick off next year at the conclusion of this plan. And longer term is to keep implementing those water play areas, either standalone or integrated with existing play areas. The next topic, I'm going to bunch them together, is to improve our ability to host outdoor events, both large and small, and to improve the infrastructure at our existing event sites that host our larger events, and to improve some of our neighborhood parks also so that they can better accommodate neighborhood events. You've been hearing about the neighborhood events program we launched this summer, and we're hearing great feedback via our surveys from the attendees, so we'd like to support our ability to continue those sorts of things and expand them. And as you know, our festivals are beloved. The slide you saw in our program evaluation that we had 60,000 people attending our larger events in the last complete year of tallies. Multi-use sports fields. We'd love to add new ones if that is possible in some fashion. It's not clear right now what site could become available, but meanwhile, we would like to increase the capacity of our existing fields. And so short term, we'd like to explore joint use agreements with schools for expanded field access, and we're proposing to evaluate the way we schedule fields and set up field reservations to get more capacity and usage out of our existing fields. And longer term, improve amenities and acquire additional field or fields if that becomes possible. Cricket field, the recommendation is to develop a community-sized field that will support our community's use, that could accommodate both youth and adult play. It could be an overlay elsewhere, and if there's not enough space for adult play, then to accommodate youth play. And short term goals to provide one field and to explore partnerships and other agencies, and longer term is to achieve a field that could accommodate both adults and youth. This is the one element where we are proposing to reach out more widely and to partner with entities that are outside our own city limits, potentially with neighboring cities such as Sunnyvale, or with the county park system if they've got space and it's proximate to our town, because a cricket field by its nature is so large. Although we're looking for spaces here in Cupertino, that one might be one that we could achieve adjacent through a partnership. And field use and cricket use. Basketball, we've talked about basketball regularly, the high desire for court space and that we don't have any full-size courts. So we'd like to create full-size basketball courts where feasible and half-size where space is constrained. The short-term recommendation is to develop 1 or 2 courts swiftly, and longer term is to develop 1 or 2 more courts or more. More is always better if we can achieve that. On pickleball, the recommendation is to provide 4 or more pickleball courts that are geographically distributed, and to aim for a venue that could have 6 courts so that pickleball tournaments can be accommodated. And short term, we'd like to provide 2 courts in the near term, and to consider overlays at existing tennis courts that are not used for competitions, because the striping, the overlay striping for pickleball could be counterproductive in a tournament setting. And longer term is to create some more pickleball opportunities. Dog parks. I didn't take these photos, by the way. Most of the photos you see in this presentation are me and my trusty camera over the years. The goal is to provide 2 additional dog parks or dog areas geographically distributed away from our current dog park at Mary Avenue. And short term is to identify potential sites and to evaluate neighborhood support. That's important because there are people that are enthusiastic and there are people that are concerned. And in the longer term is to continue to develop dog runs areas or dog parks. Now, we have a lot of dog owners here in Cupertino, and that's a daily activity for most, is walking their dogs. Gardens. Our recommendation is to provide 1 or 2 more community gardens dispersed away from McClellan Ranch Preserve, and to consider other garden types such as demonstration gardens, healing gardens, pollinator gardens, native gardens, orchards. And in this case, we're recommending an implementation plan right away for developing community gardens to identify sites that are suitable, that have sunshine, that have the right kind of soil, that have the right kind of access, and to prioritize where to create gardens. We're hopeful that a lot of sites could be suitable, so instead of being random, we'd like to bring you recommendations for where to do them, in what order, and why. And longer term is to continue evaluating the need. Do we need yet more community gardens, and the other kinds of gardens we can and should provide? And you'll probably recall from our survey when we asked people what activities their household members participated in, gardening was one of the ones that ranked highly. Moving along, 2 other items that are important to our residents are expanding the diversity of recreation opportunities. We've heard that clearly, that folks would like more kinds of options, so we have a recommendation to provide at least 1 unique feature or facility at each of our larger parks. And in the short term, we propose to plan and develop a pilot project the first year and to update 1 or 2 parks per year thereafter and continue that, and to emphasize diverse elements and unique elements, making our parks more distinctive. Comfort amenities. We're looking for our parks to be more welcoming, more inclusive, more comfortable, and very safe. There's a range of elements our residents would like improved or expanded. We hear frequently a desire for shade and other kinds of amenities. Another thing folks have brought up is the opportunity to kind of have outdoor workspaces and Wi-Fi, because some people would like to be able to work out of doors in a park setting, relax, and do things together with their devices in our park space, so to explore that. And the short-term recommendation is to update amenities and furnishings at 1 to 2 sites, and what kind of sites we would target first. And the longer term is to update 1 site every year and to mind our diversity, not cluster them all in one part of town. And you'll recall from our first survey that variety of recreational opportunities was in the very top tier of desire, and welcoming places and services was also important to our residents. And back in, I think it was April of last year, when you met the MIG consultant team, they shared with you their preliminary observations of our park system. They had some very nice things to say, but they also noted that there was not a lot of variety in our parks, and that there were opportunities to make them more welcoming and comfortable and user-friendly. So this builds on that observation. And our next item is natural vegetation enhancement. That's relatively self-explanatory. There are all kinds of ways we can enhance our park spaces and replace areas that are not actively used for recreation with alternative planting types. There's a lot of ideas here. Our short-term recommendation is to integrate natural elements into our parks and work with partners, even at sites outside of our park system, such as the creek corridors, to identify areas to enhance and restore, and to consider opportunities in the Memorial Park Master Plan. In the longer term, we'd like to do annual plantings that integrate natural vegetation and to identify streets that can become pollinator corridors. You may recall from This was August of last year. We brought forward a bunch of maps, and one of them was about fostering natural systems, and it identified in a preliminary basis streets that had wide medians or had wide planter strips that had the potential to support pollinators and become pollinator pathways. So we would like to collaborate with our public works staff on that, and that's a recommendation. So that completes that table. So our second to last table.
Any questions, clarification? No? No?
That's really thorough.
Yeah, it's very good, yeah. So, we can move on?
Okay, excellent. Okay. The last one is maybe the most exciting, is recommendations for individual park sites. I'll be a little speedier here since we're covering all of our sites and you've had a chance to look at the tables. This is a list of what we're touching on, and I threw a lot more photos into this, realizing that we're being pretty wordy, or at least photos I have taken. For Memorial Park, this one has an immediate recommendation since we already have a funded master plan effort. So our immediate task is to proceed with that master plan and involve the public for planning the future of Memorial as a community hub and as a civic-focused event space that is multi-use. And a reminder that we don't want to look at just the green space at Memorial. We really need to consider the Sports Center, the Senior Center, and Quinlan Community Center. And there's a list of things that we've heard from our folks that in all scenarios, there are certain things that people would like to see happen. They'd like the amphitheater to be renovated, the pond area to be renovated. They'd like better circulation, better walkways, looped walkways, better circulation around the amphitheater, more trees, and those sorts of things. So the short-term recommendation is to identify a phase one set of improvements for Memorial that proceeds with those priority items, and longer term is to phase in the additional recommended improvements. Stevens Creek Corridor has its own master plan that has been, it's waiting for the results of this plan, then it will resume, and the short-term recommendation is basically to implement the master plan recommendations. And there's two other things flagged because they're already in our capital improvement program and are funded. One is to stabilize the creek bank at the Blush property, the former Blush residence, between the golf course and the creek. And another is to complete the feasibility study that the City Council has just funded for improving the San Fernando entry into Blackberry Farm and to make the pedestrian and bicycle access much better. So there is a funded project for that. So that's our short-term recommendation, is to tackle those. And longer term is to implement whatever renovations are recommended at the various locations in the creek corridor. And then, yeah, some of my photos. Creekside Park, recommendation is to continue its use as a sports hub and to evaluate the building there that we've mentioned. Are there opportunities to enhance it, activate it, renovate it, in particular the concession area, which is inactive right now, and to address it in this market analysis and business plan for major facilities that we've been recommending. Make sure that that space is well used and really delivering a lot to the community at that very busy site. Longer term, the building may warrant modification or replacement, maintain the fields, and consider some other amenities, some sports-related amenities that could occur there, as well as nature play and trailhead amenities. And most of the parks were making a recommendation to seek improved walking and biking connections. Many of them are connected to a proposed bikeway or pedestrian route in those plans we've mentioned earlier. Hoover is suggested to sustain its existing uses and to consider adding some additional things, in particular a full-size basketball court. It has a hoop, but not a full-size court. Jollyman Park, short-term, is to consider adding that all-inclusive play area And then at Jollyman in particular, the neighbors have been active in suggesting certain amenities they would like to see. They submitted a petition a couple of years ago, and I've gotten calls from them. I got a call from a neighbor yesterday. They really would like to see expanded looped walking paths. They'd like more benches and seating. They'd like a picnic. They'd like a pavilion structure that has a roof that is all weather, that they can sit under during rain and still use it, and that it would provide shade as well. And that's a very busy park. The residents love it. And so that one would benefit from those added amenities. And
Do we
then
have to wait
along-
to the end for each park, or can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You can ask.
Okay,
I
since you're
think-
going through 24 parks.
Yeah.
Can I ask a Jollyman question? So there's Little League there, and it doesn't say anything about fields. Would that be, we would eliminate that field, or we would, some of the others say sustain existing use, which I like that a lot, because
Okay.
you don't want to take things away from the neighbors if you don't have to.
Okay.
But that one in particular has a farm field, meaning
Yes.
a little kid
Oh,
field.
it sure does. And it also gets quite a bit of soccer usage. There are
Yes, so it
two-
doesn't say this.
There are
Oop.
2 soccer overlays, and the larger area can be 2 youth courts or 1 larger court. So, yes, why don't we add that, sustain the existing field usage? Okay, excellent point. Thank you.
I guess we're going to ask questions first and then make comments later. Okay. I don't know, because I have a comment, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was about the off-leash dog hours. I know that was listed in Table 3, so I guess maybe that covers it, but Jollyman Park, there's a pilot or being discussed for off-leash hours.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we'll be bringing that, if you remember, we did the Jollyman off-leash survey, and the results are in, and they are generally favorable. We'll be bringing that as a presentation next month for your consideration prior to going further to council.
So I don't know if that can be included, or I guess I'll leave it up to you, or wait until the presentation comes, or whatever.
Okay.
So you're wondering if it should be added to the short-term plan? That
Right, I don't know if it could be, or at least mentioned. At least mentioned, because I know it's in the works, as opposed to just the Mary Avenue Dog Park. I would
Okay.
like to see them expanded. I know, well, I read Table 1 first, and then I noticed you had that in Table 3, so,
Yeah.
but specifically here for Jollyman.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Then moving along to Linda Vista Park, there we are, sustain existing uses. And longer term, this could be shorter term, but it's parked right now in the longer term category, is to repair or renovate the ponds. And I don't know if this commission is aware, but in 2014, the Public Works Department did a very complete technical study of the pond system. They had engineers look at it, its condition, its viability, and they came up with 3 different scenarios for renovating that area. But summer 2014 was the height of the drought. And so that those ideas were very well thought out, and this longer-term recommendation suggests selecting an appropriate course of action and implementing it so that the ponds don't sit empty and derelict as they are right now. And in addition, there's some other elements that could be considered at Linda Vista, and one that's a little bit more special is a possible destination nature play or water play area. And in this case, the consultant team recommended that among the diverse recreation elements at this site could be particularly good for some challenge elements. And one of the ones they mentioned was a zip line, interestingly. Yeah, that because
Yeah,
of its
one of the public
topography and its
comment
setting,
was that, yeah.
it could accommodate that sort of thing if we're looking for a site for that. And that it could also accommodate a demonstration or community garden or rain garden, one of those special garden types. And there's a recommendation on all of these that if the proposed trail occurs, is to provide trailhead amenities.
And one other thought, maybe on Linda Vista, it already has sort of a, what do they call that? It's like a workout
park course or
The
a
park
fitness?
course, yes.
Yeah.
And I know a number of people in the community have asked about sort of a senior park course type of thing. So, and that, the 5 or 6 things there are pretty old. They're a little ratty at this point because we've not renovated them in years. So possibly that's a location that's already there that, I forgot the name of there's a specific name someone recommended about a senior
Yeah. There's
greenfield or
Greenfields is
something
one of the
like that that's
manufacturers
specific.
for
Since it's already
outdoor.
there,
Okay.
that might be a place to put that. Plus, a lot of old people live there.
Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'll skip along. Monte Vista Park and Rec Center. We run martial arts and gymnastics, and the former school buildings and the ceilings are low. So the idea is to explore, can those occur at a better location, and to look at options for making the play area proximity to the preschool work a little better in the near term, and to consider pickleball striping at the tennis courts as an overlay there. And longer term, look at the future of the gym and the preschool buildings based on recommendations of this facility study. There are other things that could fit at Monte Vista that could be appropriate there, potentially basketball. The neighbors do use the seating areas very well, very actively. They're popular, so that could be a good site for a shelter to provide a little bit better year-round use and shade when you're looking for it. Again, there's diverse elements and utilities for neighborhood events. And that's a place where a buffered bike lane is proposed on Foothill Boulevard as part of the bike transportation plan, so make sure we would have good connections to that.
So I have a question. What is a neighborhood event utility?
Oh, that's,
Like
I'll clarify,
Like
is
a
that
toilet, like a restrooms or?
it's more like electrical outlets
Oh, okay.
and a space that temporary stage could be set up, booths
Lights.
for
So like
running
for
connection.
these
popcorn
neighborhood kind of
machines
parks?
or
Okay.
some of them, it's, if there's no infrastructure, it's much more
Harder.
strenuous to have a simple event.
The neighborhood events.
So it's
Okay,
kind of,
I understand.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's the support infrastructure,
Okay,
really.
understood. All right.
And did you say there's a proposed bike lane in that area?
Yeah, on the bike plan, I believe has a buffered bike lane proposed on Foothill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, cool.
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in that plan. On Portal Park, sustain existing uses. And that's popular with neighbors, and the picnic area is very popular, and the double play areas. In the short term, we suggest improving the lighting and the signage. The building is set very far back in the site, and it's a bit of a hike from parking along the street frontage. And there's an adjacent site just to the north that is a school site, and we'd like to explore with that operator the idea of sharing their parking, especially off hours when the school's not in operation. Is that something that could make the park more useful because there is no on-site parking at Portal? In the longer term is considering formal shade for the picnic area, nature play, diverse recreation elements once again, and to evaluate the future of that building. It's kind of like Wilson and Monte Vista, same scenario. And that one does not have an indoor restroom. So if we keep the building, we'd probably want to have a restroom that you don't have to leave the building in order, to use it, especially with running events for younger kids. They need to be escorted. Varian Park, the suggestion is to consider adding nature play or themed play, more diverse elements, and striping the tennis courts for pickleball. And in the longer term, this one has a little bit more unique recommendation, is that in enhancing and expanding the diversity, to focus on its role for passive recreation and nature education. Stevens Creek Elementary School is right next door, and there's a Y program there. It does have one of the very few remnant orchards left in town. There's an opportunity there. And so that could be a good site for a community garden, an outdoor classroom, pollinator patches, interpretive signage, those kinds of things that would play into its unique nature. At Wilson Park, the recommendation is to consider adding neighborhood-serving utilities, basketball court, a picnic shelter. Wilson is unique in that in the surveys, quite a few respondents said, can we have basketball at Wilson? There was really a surprising number, said we would love even a half court. Could you provide that at Wilson for us? So we were listening.
I was at a neighborhood event right at Wilson Park. Loud and clear, I was told today. If you're listening, any of you people at the neighborhood thing that told me to come here and say, please, they want a basketball court.
Okay, thank you for reinforcing that.
And I promised them I would say it out loud because I heard it loud and clear.
Okay. Well, we have carefully listened to what our residents and our community members have told us. So I want to say Wilson gets a special prioritization for basketball because the neighbors would really appreciate it.
And since the Regnat Creek Trail has been approved, there might be a reconfiguration of that trail through the Wilson Park, so that kind of have to be considered when we are placing like a basketball court or a field, because they're going to, the presentation is that they will go across Wilson Park, the Regnat Creek Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes,
consideration
and-
of that.
Yes, and absolutely, we will continue our coordination with Public Works staff, and we're attending each other's meetings and keeping each other apprised. So absolutely, we want to accommodate their plans and have our additions be very responsive to that. Longer term is to evaluate that ceramics building, supposing that a fine arts center occurs and ceramics moves there. That would open up different opportunities. There's another great park to have an improved loop path, and our maintenance staff has requested that it be something that can accommodate their maintenance vehicles. There's some sharp bends right now, and there's a couple of areas where the width could be improved. So we always want to help Public Works be able to do their job better and more easily. There's all kinds of things that could be added there, sports-related, community gardens, diverse elements. This is another one where our consultant team recommended considering challenge elements, if we're looking for a challenge elements site, because it's got sports orientation already. And this site is also unique in that the east side of the site is relatively undeveloped. There's a lot of lawn, there's a play area in the center, kind of some picnicking on the east edge, and then a play area on the north in the ceramics building. But there is a lot of lawn space aside from the central play area, and it's one of the few parks in town that could accommodate another sport field that doesn't already have one on it. So it's just something to flag.
The proposed off-street trail over there?
Regnar Creek Trail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We didn't name them all, but that's so off-street. So
Varian
Regnart
Park?
Creek Trail would be primarily off-street, right? As
With the
opposed-
Varian Park?
you're on
Wilson.
Varian. Oh, I was on Wilson, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
Okay. On Varian,
In the table one that says proposed off-street trail.
and that's for Varian or Wilson?
Varian.
Oh, Varian. There's, Varian is, I should bring the trail map, and we can insert that actually in our document. There's a combination of a bike lane, a short off-street path, and a bike route that connect to and through and along Varian and to Stevens Creek Elementary in our bike transportation plan.
Oh, I
So it's
see.
got all three elements in it.
Okay,
So that's why it's kind of listed more than one way.
okay.
There's also a project looking at the Carvin Avenue
Yes.
connection going across Stevens Creek
Mhm.
from that neighborhood. So, and that would pretty much go towards Varian and
Yes.
East Creek.
Certainly would.
Would that go Cupertino Road? Is that?
They're still
Okay, good. Then the littler parks, we can be faster on. Franco, the primary recommendation is to look at improving the access to Franco Court. There could be a crosswalk, parking. It could be a little bit easier to get in and out of there. Somerset, another one, sustain the uses. That one, it's on a cul-de-sac, but there's pretty regular usage by folks walking their dogs. And don't know if that's one neighborhood that might wish for some dog-friendly features or not. It's worth exploring. And it does have a basketball hoop that is not a half-court size, so that could be improved to a half-court. And it's another one that's along a possible trail alignment along the UP Railroad possible trail. Yeah. We're on the home stretch, but not quite done. Okay, the smaller parks and Sterling Barnhart sustain uses. Three Oaks is another sustain. But that one, you'll recall there's a play area in the southeast part of the park that had a former incarnation and is now kind of boulders and concrete and I believe was formerly a water feature. That could be repurposed to a better kind of play feature or other feature. And that's another one where the tree canopy is an integral feature of the park, and we specifically flagged this park to consider successional tree planting because I think that one of the three is no longer there, so it's really a two oaks park. Yeah, of the original three, the three biggest ones. Civic Center Plaza. This is tied to our Civic Center master plan that our council has spent a lot of time on. So anything that occurs there needs to be compatible with what's going on, and we want to maintain its use for events. Library Field also relates to the Civic Center master plan, and the proposal is to continue its use for cricket, and it does have a seasonal volleyball usage. And while a better long-term cricket location is being sought, if that occurs, if we find an adult-size cricket location, then Library Field could become available for something else, potentially one of those new major facilities, such as a performing arts center, that sort of thing, should the community and council favor that. Mary Avenue Dog Park. Continue but enhance the existing use. There's a photo up there of it. It could benefit from some additional shade and some higher-end amenities for the dogs, maybe dog agility features or something, and from some seating. So we think it should continue, but some modest enhancements could make it a lot more inviting. On the Sports Center, when we proceed with our Memorial Park Master Plan, we can revisit it in that process and in the business plan for a gym and multi-use rec center. And we've mentioned that we'd like to plan for relocating the teen center to a better location for the teens that serves them better. And then that space could be repurposed for sports use very readily. They're already so I'm sure you have some good suggestions for us. In the longer term, we probably should plan to renovate it in some fashion. The building was not new when we acquired it. And possibly adding some different rec uses per the findings of those planning efforts.
We were going to make comments as we
Yeah,
go.
sure.
So obviously that has a lot to do with what we end up doing at Memorial Park,
Yes.
but Meenakshi mentioned earlier, which I would second, and that is if we had an option to go up, there's just so much land there is in Cupertino, so we can't make it out, and there's really not a lot of neighbors, so up, and it's on a major corridor, and if we did a green roof or a patio up on top or something like that, if we were renovating the building anyway, I'd put my plug in for that.
Great point, and the commission has mentioned that. So I propose that we add that explicitly to this matrix to remind folks. Good, then moving along, the Don Burnett Bridge and Trail. The recommendation there is this photo I took, and that was from, it opened in April 2009, so pretty soon it'll be coming up on its 10th birthday. And I think this was the next spring, and they had put a lot of wildflower seeds out there and so on. It was very pretty out there the first couple of years. And there's quite a bit of acreage on the north and the south sides, and there's an opportunity to improve the plantings there to not just increase the habitat value, but to add seasonal interest and year-round beauty. And so that's something that can be pursued there. So we're recommending that. The trails, this mentions the existing trails, but not the potential trails. It's silent on the 3 that are undergoing feasibility studies because we don't know if they will occur. But on our trails, we're encouraging improving connections, adding amenities where they are lacking, enhancing riparian corridors, and adding green infrastructure, which helps keep flows to creeks healthy. And a few photos of Stevens Creek Trail that I've taken. And our last topic, school fields that are managed by the city. And you have seen that our recommendations are to encourage excellent connections between the school field sites, trails, and parks citywide, to absolutely continue our joint use arrangement with Cupertino Union School District, and to actively explore options to broaden sharing of facilities. Am I right there?
Nope, it's can we ask for a break temporarily, just to sort this out a little bit? Yeah. Please call the time.
Let's take a 5-minute recess and come back till we figure out this sound. So we'll be back at 9:05. Yeah.
All right, calling this meeting back to order at 9:16.
All right, Commission, last sentence, last table, last topic, school fields. The recommendation, as we were saying, was to continue our joint use arrangement and to explore options to broaden sharing of facilities and to actively pursue partnerships with our school districts to improve public access to recreation facilities to address the needs of nearby neighbors. And with that, I conclude the presentation, and I welcome your input on this third and final table.
I just have one comment. Stevens Creek, I'm not sure where this belongs under the Stevens Creek corridor or trail or whatever. I'd like to call out or see interpretive historical signage in the Stevens Creek corridor, because there's a lot of history in that one little corridor.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, under trails, we got the Saratoga Creek Trail, but we don't have the Stevens Creek Trail. Is it considered just part of the corridor?
Yeah, it was actually, if we go back, let's see, the very bottom of this slide, Stevens Creek Trail.
Oh, okay, it's
And
not on table 1?
It is on the next page.
It's on the next page? Oh, there it is, sorry, okay, it's on the next page. So
Oh, yeah, okay.
that's what happened, it fell off to the next page.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
then the other comment was, based on our previous agenda item tonight, is maybe we want to add the Hall Road.
Okay, we can do that as a
potential
Is it,
and
what- it's,
proposed and
yeah, okay,
It's under
because now that
consideration.
it's actually, a proposal as opposed to,
not to
okay.
lose sight of it, make sure
okay,
that
very good.
it's included.
I also have one question and one comment. So the comment is, thank you for, in most of these parks, well, thank you for this. This is very, very thorough. Thank you. I was wondering how we would even start with every park, but this was great. And at the top of almost every park, you said current park use. So I guess my thoughts are, let's try to keep current park use in every park we can, only because the neighbors are used to their, what they have. So our goal isn't to do takeaways unless we have a big
Okay.
master plan about something.
Okay.
So thank you for that. And then the
Good.
only other thing I heard you say that I have a question about is Memorial Park, which I know is going to be its own thing, but you were saying pond renovated. You used the word pond renovated, that people wanted the ponds. Is that real? I thought ponds were gone.
We can rephrase that, but the pond area, the empty pond areas need to be repurposed.
Repurposed, thank you. Because you said
And-
renovated, and I really thought after
Yeah,
the drought
and-
and all that,
Yeah,
that
and
we were going to
renovation
repurpose them.
implies keeping the same. Okay, then we'll use the word repurposed, and the fate of that space will be
Better used.
clarified in the master plan. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay,
this
good
presentation.
point, thank you.
Right, I just wanted to say, anybody who's watching our video feed, we were late restarting the meeting for 10 minutes because our audio system was not working. Just so you know, we were not just fooling around. And thank you for the wonderful presentation. My only comment is that, as I said before, the short-term plans to see if we can do a couple of those pilot programs especially for the teen center and the preschool, and see if we and do the repurposing of the buildings that are in some parks and see the interest and the usage.
Okay.
So for me, I also, I agree that the teen center, short-term, if that's something that we can prioritize more. And then also, I didn't get an opportunity to ask this one because I was late. But the gardens, I was wondering why the healing garden was placed under a larger umbrella, only because I know that the city council is also very, very supportive of the initiative, and why it can't be a standalone.
It can be a standalone. It was bunched because there are so many different kinds of gardens that could be pursued, and there was a list of some of the kinds of options there are, but it can certainly be a standalone item.
I would like to see that as a standalone item. Wow, I think this is a testament to how comprehensive your work was, that all of us have very, very limited things to say.
Yeah, there was a lot in there, so thank you for the time you spent on it and your thoughtful feedback. It's very helpful. Thank
So you have
Commissioners.
everything you need from us.
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, now moving on.
Director's
Work plan.
Oh, yeah.
Take a moment to review the work plan. Please let us know if you have any additions. Are we still looking at these, Jeff? Are we still seeing these as the ones where the next 6 is
October.
for October? Because it looks like a fairly heavy, heavy meeting.
Let's see. The Jollyman Dog Park item we would like to bring forward. The organizational structure presentation will not happen in October. The Community Gardens construction update may be very short. I'll talk to that in a moment in my director's comments.
I don't think we're object to that.
Okay. The study session for strategic plan were a bit early as well. So I don't think it's going to be, from my perspective, as robust as what it appears here.
Is there any way we can get the ActiveNet presentation for October? Or it won't have taken into full swing by then?
I need to check in with the staff on that one.
Okay, well, if there's anything we can displace from any of the subsequent meetings, because it looks like that section is going to be shortened up quite a bit, that would be good.
Okay. I would propose, just a thought while we're talking about the work plan. We had some comments or questions tonight about the teen center, and what I'd propose is that we kind of take a by the numbers approach, go in and take a look and do some analysis over the next 2 or 3 weeks of what's happening at the teen center, and invite our teen coordinator, Danny Mestizo, to come and talk with you a little bit. Just so that we kind of have a baseline rather than just thoughts about it. We'll have something to work off of moving forward, if that would be acceptable.
I think that sounds
That's good,
fantastic.
yeah.
Agreeable.
Okay.
So we're going to remove the organizational structure presentation and the
Department strategic plan.
Yeah, and I think that the gardens construction update, it may happen. I just don't know whether the contract will be set yet.
So with our new annual work plan, we generally follow up with a presentation to the city. Have we looked at scheduling that? I know you said September was because they canceled the
city
meeting and
council,
they've
yeah.
got a lot on their agenda. And you suggested October. Is that something that you're following up on?
Yeah, either October or November. Probably sooner than not. October probably is better. I would defer to Kevin to see how that would be scheduled.
Okay. So as of right now, it's scheduled, I believe, for the second meeting in October. So we could try to move it around too if needed. So I'll work with the clerk's office to see if we could have it sooner if possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So we will keep an eye out for an email from you on scheduling of that. Excellent. So if there's nothing else left on the work plan, and since we moved up the new business item, we can go ahead and jump to staff and commission reports. Director Milkus, you're up.
Okay, great. I just have a few things to share with you. We started to touch on a few. The ActiveNet program is scheduled to go live next month. Staff have been working tirelessly to get the database together and ensure that everything is the way it needs to be before we go live, so that it's just a service improvement and it's fairly seamless to our community. It's a really, really big deal to the department. And we chose, in choosing ActiveNet, I like to call it an off-the-shelf product, meaning that there are some of our business practices that will have to change in order to make the program work well and effectively for us. The other option is to use a program that is built specifically for us. But I can tell you my experience and talking with other folks around the country is that's a real challenge sometimes to get everything right. But I'm happy to report that ActiveNet will go live and will encompass not a phased approach in the facilities, but virtually all of our registrations across the city, whether you're at the senior center or the sports center or the golf course or at the community center, you'll be able to, there will also be some other real good service improvements, things like the ability to look at the picnic site that you would like to rent and to know if it's available right online. So some really good stuff, and it's coming. The next thing to report to you is that we had a visit the other day with some prospective bidders for the Community Gardens project, and happy to say that as soon after the contract goes to council, which takes place in October, that hopefully then the work can start almost right away afterwards, depending on what's negotiated with the contractor. We're very excited about that idea. Again, this is going to literally demolish what you see now and move us into a real world-class community gardens program. So very excited about it. Neighborhood events are wrapping up this month, and we'll be coming back to you with a summary. The idea is that we want to create kind of a plan, a strategic plan to go forward in what worked and where we want to make changes, what was really effective. And I'm could not be more pleased with your individual and collective participation this summer, because you'll be able to really help guide us in the right direction in how we want to do this program. This Saturday, I believe, it's date night. I think it's at Linda Vista Park. Starts about 5:30, and the movie's La La Land, and the team are real excited. I know that there's lots of roses and chocolate involved, and when they first told me, and why, I don't, if you bring your wine, or no, maybe there is. I think there is something on that. So we've had a couple of highlights since we've spoken before on this, and I'm not sure which events you've been to, but the chess event was fabulous. Lots and lots of people, very unique, great comments from community members. And then, of course, last month, one of the bigger highlights was the Indiana Jones movie at Wilson, and Indiana came in on a helicopter. All in uniform with a whip and everything, and he was chased by a 6-foot boulder. And it was a really exciting and fun evening. So the next thing to report to you is, of course, you heard kind of the meat of the master plan tonight. We are expecting and hoping that we'll have a draft of the actual plan itself in the month of November, and so that's when we can start. 50% celebrating and 50% really starting to talk more with the community about, ensuring that everybody is happy with where we're at with the progress. But as you can tell, Gail has done just an amazing job making sure that everything is very comprehensive and very clean that way. That wraps it up. That's all the updates I have for you.
Great. Can we also get an update from the mayor's meeting?
That was me. So I went to the mayor's meeting, and so there were teen commission. Their most exciting thing was Bobathon, and it's if you look at next door event, that it seems like there's so much interest, like 700-800 people who have shown interest to it, and they are this event. I think there are a few vendors who are going to bring boba, and it's combining with mental health and stress, and so there would be some tables, I think, from various organizations which will be addressing or giving kids information about. So that was teen. Sustainability didn't had any August meeting, but they are also now going forward with creating their own master work plan, like we have, because they didn't had it before. So, and they will continue giving grants, as they did last year for the 2 schools, I think $500. So they got good responses on that, and they will continue doing grants for the school students. They are also having their speaker series, sustainability speaker series, and the second speaker in October is energy advocate. So they will they will publish their plan. Library Commission is also working on their work plan now, and will do that continuously. And the highlight was the Go Biblio, the library on wheel. So that I think they're looking at 3 or 4 locations to bring the library for, and they were looking for ideas of where to park it and how to get the people to come and get the books, or would it have also return facility and checkout facility, stuff like that. The Tech Commission was talking about in the Teen Center, they're looking at some workshop for AI, and they have some companies they're contacting to bring the programming for the teens, some workshops. And also they're looking at some broadband focused internet capacity for next 5 to 10 years. So their focus is on that. That's about it for mayor's meeting.
Excellent. Any other commissioner updates?
I have more.
Go for it.
So I was busy attending all the neighborhood events. The chess event was absolutely brilliantly planned. A lot of people, Queen of Cartway, what was her name? Fiona and Benjamin. They were there. They played against 12 kids. They won all the match. That was interesting, and there were so many other kids playing, and everybody was very happy, and we saw the movie. And they both spoke very well to the teens. Went to the teen commissioner dinner. There were some interesting projects the teens have talked about that were very interesting, about housing and traffic, and they had almost like the same project, similar line as 9501 leadership program. They had some smaller projects, and they presented their projects at the teen commission dinner. And then went to the commissioner dinner, was part of the Regna Trail. It was quite interesting meeting, 4 hour long on this. Attended the Indian Independence Day flag hoisting ceremony at the library, and last one today, yoga in the Portal Park as part of the neighborhood events. It was very nice. We should have more fitness classes outside.
Right.
So that was my update.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll be quick. I also went to the Regnart Trail meeting at City Council, and I didn't stay that long. I think I left at like 10 o'clock. But anyway, I think the result was very positive, and excited about that. And I did attend 3 of the neighborhood park events. And first one was in Jollyman. The second one was the Sunday Art in the Park at 3 Oaks Park from 2 to 4. And I really liked that one because it felt more intimate. The space is smaller, and the music was good, and it just seemed really vibrant to me. Really enjoyed that one. And then also to Linda Vista for the astronomy night with this ethereal music. It was really spacey, but it was great. So really enjoying these neighborhood events.
Okay, I participated in National Night Out. We had a block party. This is the first time I actually became a block leader this year, so I brought the party together, and apparently one of our neighbors said this was the first time in 40 years we'd had a block party. So he's one of our neighbors who has been there a long time, and he came and he really enjoyed it and got to meet a lot of neighbors who are new to the neighborhood since he's been there, certainly. So, and the sheriff came and was interacting with us. I think the sheriffs went around to a lot of the block parties and participated, and so that was great to see them out there. Attended the commissioners' thank you dinner. That was very nice. Been attending the neighborhood events. Went last night to the one at Monte Vista Park. The band was great. It was really good, but the attendance was not what we probably would have liked, and I think we can attribute that to it being a weeknight and school being back in session. So I'm sure we'll take that into consideration as we go forward. And attended the Ragnarok Trail meeting with the City Council, and late into the night. That's it.
I also attended a city council meeting late until the night, very late. And also I went to a number of block parties, which the only one I'd ever been to was my own. So it was interesting going to a number of other people's block parties. And also, like Helene, I listened to ethereal music and watched Saturn's rings in a telescope. It was pretty cool. It was a lovely evening. So I think the neighborhood events were a roaring success this summer. So, I mean, I was there only first summer, so it was great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I had a travel-heavy month, but managed to make it to the commissioner dinner, which was great to hear all the updates from all the commissions and attempt at a dad joke while I was on stage. Can't necessarily say that that joking is particularly my strong suit, but I gave it my best shot. It's okay. It's a learning experience every time. All right, I think we are good to go. With that, if there's nothing else, we can adjourn the meeting at 10:40. 9:40. Excuse me, 9:40.